Councillor Elliott, Councillor Conley, in favor, carried. I'd like to get through that before Councillor White gets here. He always upsets my agenda. Okay. Just one set of minutes to adopt there. So a motion to adopt the last minutes. Councillor St. Jean Paul, Councillor Elliott, all in favor. It's carried. Thank you. Moving straight to proclamations. Welcome a representative from Toastmasters Club, Ms. Respa, am I pronouncing that correctly? So would you like to say a few words to us?
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Rowe, fellow council members, and the community. Wonderful recognition for proclaiming February 2016 International Toastmasters Awareness. It highlights and showcases our promotion of communication and leadership skills. Toastmasters has tremendous benefits for personal development. I want to share how the receiving and giving feedback in every meeting really benefits. The club encourages us to give at least one constructive suggestion after a person's finished a speech or a role. It's not always easy to do, but it's very beneficial. Our local club is Morning Stars, and we have another club, Beachcombers. Our motto is to speak from the heart, speak from the mind. That's our current motto. I've been in Toastmasters now for 4 years, and I'm learning new skills every week. Tonight, being with you is part of my public relation role on the executive. So on behalf of the two clubs, I would like to give my heartfelt thank you for this proclamation.
Thank you. How many members do your club have at the present time?
Morning Stars has a core of 25. It's first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's pretty
but
brutal.
I have a few of my club members here, and at first it's difficult, but the benefits, like I said, you just really can hardly wait to come. The advanced program is once a month. There is talk about perhaps having a club on another night.
Certainly
I'll
admire.
Keep you posted.
I certainly admire the dedication to be there. It's 7:30 in the morning, I think, isn't it?
7:15.
Yeah. So that's wow. Okay, I'll read the proclamation and I'll give this to you in just a moment then. So whereas Toastmasters International, a nonprofit educational organization, is a leader in making effective oral communications a national and international reality for all persons, and whereas the ability to speak clearly and effectively is a powerful and important skill that can help individuals overcome barriers to effective performance in virtually every endeavor and line of work, and whereas Toastmasters programs help people develop skills in speaking, listening, giving feedback, enhancing leadership potential, and promoting self-actualization, and whereas Toastmasters International has designated February as Toastmasters Month, now therefore I, Mayor Wayne Rowe, do hereby proclaim February 2016 as Toastmasters Month in the town of Gibsons. Yes, thank you for coming. We have one other delegation, Ms. Polly, representing the Sunshine Coast Secular Humanist Association.
Thank you. I wish I had 4 years of Toastmasters right now, but unfortunately I don't. On behalf of Charles Darwin and on behalf of the Secular Humanist Association of the Sunshine, I thank you very much for the reading of the proclamation. I should tell you that Darwin published Origin of the Species in 1859, and 140 years later, not much has happened to us in terms of natural selection or evolution. We probably lost a little more hair, and that's about it. However, in terms of machine intelligence, it's grown exponentially. And I think in the next 30 or 40 years, we're going to find machines that are much smarter than any of us ever pretended to be. So until then, thank you very much. And we do meet regularly every second Sunday down at the hatchery at 2 o'clock. And this particular, the 14th, we're having a Professor Erwin Diener speak on the evolution of the brain. So if you're interested, please come down. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you. I'm probably going to regret saying this, but you said we hadn't advanced very much. I guess you've been watching the U.S. elections.
Oh my dear.
Okay. I take it back already.
I think Darwin was right there.
Excuse me. So, whereas February 12, 2016 is the anniversary of the birth of Charles Darwin in 1809, and whereas his work has made great contributions to the human understanding of our world and the universe in which we live, and whereas that understanding led to and continues to lead to advances in technology, medicine, and philosophy, and whereas those advances, through the efforts of the women and men of science, have helped to relieve suffering and prolong life, and whereas Darwin has been chosen to symbolize those advancements, and whereas the anniversary of Darwin's birthday is an appropriate time on which to reflect and celebrate the importance of scientific advancements to all people, and whereas the town of Gibsons is rightly proud of its commitment to scientifically based environmental awareness, appropriate technology, and progressive education, now therefore I, Wayne Rowe, Mayor of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim February 12, 2016, shall be known as Darwin Day in the town of Gibsons. So thank you, Ms.
very
Crowley.
much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we'll move on now to the delegation, and Mr. Nichols, Executive Director of the Gibson District Chamber of Commerce, is going to bring us up to date.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. This is something we've looked, try and speak loud enough, but look forward to. First couple of things, I'm pleased to be back and see a lot of old faces again. And first, I'd just like to introduce, I have a whole delegation here tonight. If I just take a moment, we have our President of the Gibsons and District Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dave Chisholm. We can stand up, take a bow. We have 2 members of our board who are also our chair of our Economic Development Committee, Mr. William Baker and Ms. Chinyu Orturello. And very important to how we run things at the Gimmer Chambers in our responsibilities for the Visitor Information Center is Ms. Victoria Chapman, who is our manager there and the custodian of George Gibson across the way. So, in my report that I'm sure all of you have read and have a million questions, which I certainly encourage, but I would just like to highlight and bring you up to date. A year just passed that was very, I guess, interesting from a chamber standpoint. Went through a number of changes, a number of activities have taken place from the chamber standpoint, and in particular, you know, our being the custodians of small business here in the town of Gibsons and the district surrounding us. First of all, I guess one of the biggest changes is that I came back, and I have somebody cheering me, and that's the jury's still out on that. But hopefully, going forward, you know, we can continue to be very proactive, very supportive, and most importantly, we want to continue to have fun at what we're doing. So that's what we're charged with. I'll give you a brief overview. I'm not going to read word for word. It's in there what we've done in particular. Our membership, I believe, it continues to get stronger. I know objectives were set last year to grow business membership in the chamber of over 30%. Very aggressive. I guess with some of the things that have happened, we fell short. We only grew 15%. So we're pleased with that, and that helps us set the tone going forward in 2016 that the opportunity is out there. And our main strategy for this year we're in, but going forward is to continue to show the business community the benefits of what we can do for them, and at the same time ask them what they can do for us in supporting the ongoing growth of the Gibsons community. We expanded our board by 2 new members, which brings us up to a total complement of 10 people, which is where we wanted to be. And going forth this year at our AGM that comes up in the end of March, we're looking forward to maintaining that. And it's the strength of that board that each of the individuals who have stepped up, they want to be involved, they want to be engaged, they've taken on roles to support the business community. And a prime example of that is Mr. Baker, who has a background in finance and economics, so he understands that economic development and has been very instrumental in us moving forward and the activities that we've been able to undertake. And on his right wing, I guess, his wing person is Shin Yu, who just recently became part of the board, and she is a lot of people in the community have gotten to know Shin Yu, and again, she's been very instrumental in helping us to understand the different types of investors, obviously particularly from Asia and Indonesia, who are taking the time to look at Gibsons, look at the Sunshine Coast as not just business opportunities, but opportunities to move here and to become part of the community. From a chamber standpoint, and I've separated our chamber business, which involves the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitor Information Center, and the Travel Ambassadors, separately from our economic development endeavors. And on the chamber side, tourism here on the Sunshine Coast this past year, well, it was flat. It was actually good news versus the previous year, where the last couple of years there's been a decline in the tourism coming to the Sunshine Coast, and I don't. We could get into a very long, a lot of discussions on what are the reasons and what are the challenges. And even notwithstanding last year, in 2015, with the severe drought we had, the major fire we had here at the Seashell Mine that deterred a lot of people from coming here, there were community groups and associations, and just the Sunshine Coast itself had enough drawing power to keep people coming here. And not to talk out of turn, notwithstanding some of our transportation issues, people still want to come to the Sunshine Coast and visit. So that's very encouraging for us going forward. From our Travel Ambassadors program, it continues to be a very strong and important cog in the wheel of supporting tourism and visitors to the Sunshine Coast, because not all visitors are tourists. They're visitors here for family, but for business opportunities also. And the Travel Ambassadors, they engage them. They're the tip of the iceberg. They're the greeters, the gatekeepers of greeting people coming to the Sunshine Coast, and very important mechanism for us to continue to engage. And part of going forward, we have a unique opportunity from a tourism standpoint through Destination BC, which has now become the larger umbrella of Tourism BC, and Victoria, jump up and correct me anytime. But unique opportunity that they see for British Columbia, increased tourism. Tourism over the last year or a couple of years in British Columbia has actually been flat or declining in a lot of areas. There's only 2 other regions, and they're the interior and the far east in BC, that actually showed some growth in tourism visitors to this province. So Sunshine Coast is in a very good, strong, solid position to go forward. So Destination BC sees that as a huge opportunity, tourism as an industry, because as we all know, some of the challenges of the resource industry and how it's a heavy weight on the economic viability of BC going forward. So through their program, they want to enhance our ability to serve and to provide services to the tourist, the visitor, not just to provide them information, but to become a service mechanism to them. And we have joined with our counterparts in Seychelles and Pender Harbor to request some granting that would give us a coast-wide focus on encouraging and developing new tourism services to help support visitors to the Sunshine Coast. And all this, at this point, is under that umbrella with, I guess, a moral support at this point with the Sunshine Coast Tourism Organization. So we have a cohesive unification of all the organizations that are concentrated on how do we improve the tourism experience coming here to the Sunshine Coast. Okay, and we will hear the results of some of that granting. We've met, we have additional training programs, workshops planned for our current travel ambassadors, as you all know, are volunteers, but to provide them with more tools, everything from knowledge to material and to insights into identifying everything that the Sunshine Coast is about. So we're looking forward to that being as a very positive opportunity going forward next year. From there, we move into, I guess, what we have actually spent a lot of our time on, and that's supporting Gibsons and District plus the Sunshine Coast and economic development. The year started off, I guess, there was a lot of, I call it tire kicking, as I went back and read my notes, or the notes that were there, tire kicking, a lot of inquiries, and it was near the latter half of the year that it really started to pick up and increase. We have met with, and I just highlighted a number of delegations that we actually sat down and talked with, and who were making inquiries about what are the needs of the Sunshine Coast from a business standpoint, from a community standpoint, and what are some of the tools and the directions that we can offer them. And we've had some, I think, some very good results that way in people walking away. As I'm sure you would know, economic development, they don't make a decision. It's not like buy on the spot. they take the information, they go away, and they themselves, the different businesses and people have to make a business decision. I just want to highlight, and it just happened literally last Thursday, we met with a delegation who came to town, and it was headed by a very prominent immigration lawyer out of Vancouver, who we have subsequently found is considered the guru of all immigration lawyers across Canada, in such that he makes presentations, coast to coast, and how to address this immigration windfall or opportunities that has come to Canada. And he helped us really understand the PNP program, which is the Federal Immigration Program, and their challenges that they met with. And he's opened up, presented us with some unique opportunities where we feel we'll be able to now start embracing and encouraging visitations from these project leaders, these consultants who represent a multitude of different businesses and types of investment opportunities coming forward to the Sunshine Coast. So we're looking forward to an exciting next 5-6 months in particular. From that standpoint, it's carrying on is sort of business as usual. And in order for us to do that, of course, the last part of the discussion is the big ask. And that big ask is to request your continued support in terms of our budgeting needs, which I've outlined there, from a visitor center standpoint, and from the Travel Ambassador Program. They were sent through to Director Poole, and we've identified those. And one thing that came up at the last moment, we understand the development that's going on right now in regards to the economic development model that's just in the final stages of being identified here in the Sunshine Coast. And once that gets identified, and then their strategy is set, and by the time it comes rolling out, we feel there's going to be enough of a timeline here. And in discussion with Director Poole, one of the things I requested is a continuation of the economic development funds you have provided us over this last year. And the suggestion was maybe we can address that on a per quarter basis until the whole coastwide economic development model is, is set, and we're able then to work closely with that to continue on, I think, a lot of the exciting things that we're doing. That's sort of a long-winded summary of it, and I would encourage any questions you might have, myself or David or William, or if you want to digest some of the hard copy in front of you, we welcome the feedback.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, and good to see you back. And you'll see from your request to our Director of Finance that he sent his bad cop tonight. So that's the one you're going to have to woo.
Excuse me, Mayor, and it was 11th hour. You were all aware, you were all part of the Business Walks program this last summer. And through Cheryl McClay of Small Business BC, we've come up with a final summary result of it. And it's a highlight of what questions were asked, but then the summary of the results. And as everybody, we've talked off and on a bit about this, there's probably not a lot of surprises, but from the over 64 businesses that responded, there's a lot of commonality, which, in some ways was good to see, because that shows that there's a unification of the business community and what they see as some of their needs. One of the big questions was about bylaw signage. It's great, you've already taken care of that, so that's, before we even get to that. And the other, if you read through it and sort of break it down, it's what they're asking for is, I guess, that we all are asking for from a business community, is that we need more traffic, more people. That's what's going to help to drive any growth, is the people have to be here. So we're all working together as what are the ways to do that. And as we all know, skyscrapers are not the way.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for this report on the business walk, and appreciate the efforts of the chamber and helping coordinate that particular one. I thought it was quite successful. And I'm happy to see that it's quite a vibrant board as well, so that bodes well for the organization.
That's important, very important.
Councillor Sanjay.
Just a couple of comments. I've been to a couple of meetings back at the chamber, and it's nice to be back. Two things that I've noticed compared to when I was there before as liaison, I'm grateful to see that you guys have committees set up now, and I think that'll work really well, even more focused. And then the other thing that I have noticed, even in discussions, is kudos for the relationship building and the approach that you're taking with the people that are showing interest. It needs to be noted that you are meeting with people and you're building relationships, people that are interested in Gibsons. It's not just replying to an inquiry. It's not just answering a phone. There's a Shinyu, especially, being new on the board, but I just wanted to acknowledge, I've noticed that is happening already, so.
Thank you. Well, and that's, I guess you might say, the way I operate. That's my background in business is to get face to face. You can trade letters and emails all over, but you really can accomplish a lot in terms of that face to face and getting to understand the specifics.
We're taking up enough of your time, but I just have one announcement to make that we can officially announce now that we will be having our second annual Mini Makers Fair on May 29th in McDougall Park. We've already worked out when we've got the park for the day. And, our theme this year is more workshops, more exhibitors, and lots more people. The planning committee's already almost doubled, so there's 12 people meeting weekly to plan that event, and it's really big this year.
Yeah, thank you. I saw the reference to last year, and I had dropped down to see you guys last year, so that it takes a while when you start these out to really get the traction, and hopefully we'll see more participants this year. So I look forward to that. So yeah, thanks for your work around that. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, any inquiries at this point? Any other opportunities? 8.1.1 is to receive the committee of the whole minutes. Councillor Marriott, Councillor Sanhenko, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, David, 8.1.2.
Thank you, Mayor. At the Committee of the Whole meeting 2 weeks ago, we went through 5 different options for the collection of bulk water facilities charges. And
David, could you just briefly kind of state what those are for the public as well? Just
certainly. So bulk water facilities charges are a charge similar to a development cost charge that is charged by the SCRD to the town of Gibsons as part of the bulk water agreement. And the bulk water facilities charge is $3,632 per lot, and it applies in the town to Zone 3. It also applies to the a large chunk of the regional district as well. And it is to finance the expansion or enlargement of the infrastructure necessary to facilitate growth. So if that growth wasn't occurring, those improvements wouldn't be required. Larger pipes, bigger pumps, larger reservoirs, etc. So we presented 5 options to collect it, because right now the charge just applies to Zone 3, which means that Zone 3 developers pay roughly twice as much as anybody else in the town, as well as twice as much as anybody in the regional district. And that's because SCRD water is being delivered to Zone 3 only, and their charged development cost charges for infrastructure in the town, and bulk water facilities charges for the infrastructure to the town boundary from the source. So we pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, we pretty much agreed that number 2 and number 4 would be struck off the list as being not really viable, leaving options 1, 3, and 5 on the table. Initially, the report did not include option 5. However, we did include it as a late item in response to a comment from one of the councillors about the possibility of splitting it. And it wasn't meant to convey any recommendation from staff as option 5. It was, as I say, just trying to be proactive and responding to that possible option coming forward. We do also want to note that options 2 to 5 are, or let's scrap 2 and 4. Options 3 and 5 are based on projections, on estimates of growth that we might see happen, as opposed to hard concrete one-to-one development. And then there's also kind of an increasing risk of potential shortfalls, with the least amount of risk with number 1 and the likely the most amount of risk in option 5. So from that meeting, we received the instructions that option 5 was the preferred option, and we started running some numbers. And in running those numbers, we've refined the numbers that we had previously presented to you, and they are in bold. So under the charge column, so option 3, instead of $24 a parcel, is now $29 a parcel. And in option 5, instead of $915 per new lot and $13 per parcel, it's $961 per lot plus $21.50 per parcel. Now that was in result of some refinements we've done on the numbers, but also trying to come up with, just like I said, it was based on projections, trying to come up with a realistic projection. And so over the past 6 years, including forecasts for 2016, we've had equivalent lots. When I say equivalent lots, it's either a subdivision lot or the equivalent in a per square meter charge for a multifamily or industrial, commercial, institutional. We jig the numbers and come up with what we call equivalent lots. So we assumed, based on the 5 years or 6 years prior, that we were shooting for 14. We looked at those numbers again, and the numbers ranged from anywhere from 0 lots in a given year to 24. And the lower we estimate that, the greater the risk of us having a shortfall. And so we felt that 18 was probably a more appropriate conservative number to use, and that is what's largely what's resulted in the revised numbers. The risk in option 5 or option 3 is that should more development occur, we don't. Should more development occur with no development occurring in zones 1 and 2, the revenue collected might not meet the money that we need to return to the SCRD. And as I say, we try to reduce that risk somewhat by being a little bit more conservative on the lots instead of 14, changing that to 18. It's took 3 of us a lot of work on a spreadsheet, and I just ask you, trust me on the numbers, because it's the longer we explain, the more complicated it seems to get. So if you're going to ask questions, please, single syllables and.
So the recommendation that's here before us that came from the committee is for like the option 5, the sort of hybrid approach. There was a lot of discussion at committee around this which approach. Was not by any means unanimous. So the main purpose here of this additional report tonight or spreadsheet is just to make sure that council is aware that the sort of number we were looking at, say, particularly around the parcel tax, that committee was more around $14, if I recall, and now we're looking at about 21. So just so that we're clear on what the implications of that would be. So we get a mover and seconder just to get this up for discussion here. So moved by Councillor Sanjango, second by Councillor Valeri. Okay, so I'll open this to anything that's come up. You want to state your position here? I got the agenda done before you came here, so you couldn't mess with that.
Yeah, I noticed I showed up and the time was still 6:59 by my clock. I'm definitely concerned. Really, it's very ironic. I think that I was the councillor who suggested let's look at a hybrid version two meetings ago, and then last time we talked about this, I did find your argument very compelling, Mr. Mayor, that for DCCs, it really should be the new development that's paying for it, not existing. Fundamentally, that still makes a lot of sense to me. I could support some kind of hybrid, but I'm very concerned that now we're looking at a 33% increase, and we're wish that 3,632 is the status quo, and all the way down to less than a third of that to 961. I do wish there could be some middle ground there at least. Basically subsidize this I still have to be close to us.
So, Councillor Lariat, you persuaded me to come up that committee, so, give us your sort of thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, I have to admit, I second guessed myself a little bit when I saw the way it was worded after that long discussion. That was yesterday, or the day before, and then when I heard the affordable housing discussion today, I returned to the original, which is $3,600 of DCCs per lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, that would make the total DCCs for, or sorry, total DCCs for zone 3 would be up, was it $20,000?
That's correct. Yes, between $20,000 and $21,000, combination of DCCs and right now the town's development cost charges are somewhere slightly.
So maybe that $20,000 threshold isn't important, but I think after the affordable housing discussion, I recognize that the mayor, Mr. Mayor, that the selling price is determined by the market, but I still see it as, $20,000 bill right off the front as potentially discouraging development in zone 3, and I expect zone 3 is where we might see it. So, $13 per parcel was easy to support. $21.50 is pushing it, but I really have I would struggle with tacking on $3,600 for something that does benefit the whole town. That bulk water does potentially be in all the zones. Access to it does provide that.
Well, following the discussion of the last time we discussed this, it was definitely easier. I think that I'm still in agreement with Councillor Valeriat. It was a lot easier to make this, agreement when we were looking. But I do agree with his position, and I'll stay there.
Originally, as Councillor White had alluded, I sort of favored the first option, which is that the development cost charges for water should be totally absorbed by the developer. And as Councillor Valeria intimated, I felt that the market price for a lot was whatever the market price is, and that by reducing that, we may just be subsidizing a developer. But we had further discussions as well, and Councillor Valeria quite rightly points out the affordable housing process that we've been going through as well, and trying to make sure that we do create attractive affordable housing in the community. And also, given that Zone 3 water, the water we get from the regional district, although it services primarily Zone 3, it is available to the whole town, which we had to use when we had the boil water situation. We had to rely on that water to service the whole town. And we also rely on it for fire flows when if we had an extreme event. So basically, it does benefit the whole town, and so I was persuaded by Councillor Valeriat at the committee that the hybrid approach is probably the appropriate one. Even though these numbers have changed from what we were looking at, I think I could go ahead with this at this point. We could revisit this in next year if we find that our experience is just not working out the way we think it should. And so it's not written in stone for forever, I guess is what I'm saying. So at this point, I would still be prepared to support the recommendation.
Councillor White?
I heard about the math challenges before, but answer this, but can we even get a good guess of if the parcel charge was lowered back down to around $13 as it was before, what would charge?
That'll probably take us another day and a half.
That's what I thought, but it's just, I'm sorry, it's just a
Yeah,
question I have in my head. Yeah.
The part of the reason for the split was we were trying to keep things as defensible as we could, and the using our DCC model, there was a split between development and existing benefit of 43 and 57%, and that is some of the number. That was one of the numbers that went into arriving at the 2150 and 961. I don't have a quick answer for you, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Councillor Lumley, I know you weren't with us at that point. Do you feel that you've heard enough this evening to be able to form your own opinion?
I feel bad for Dave because they've crunched the numbers and stuff like that. I have some things rolling around the back of my head, but unfortunately I missed that meeting, so I know, but I'm not gonna dredge it up again, but,
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just wanted to, yeah, Councillor Blair?
Recall discussing it like before, but I guess there's that fundamental question of whether it should all be development or whether we should work basically retroactively going back to taxpayers. So how does this kind of compare to a latecomer agreement or some other tools? I mean, in what cases, I guess, would we go back to? Are there any other precedents for going back to the overall taxpayer to pay for development? Or this, or
Yes, there are. I can't remember what you they had. There was actually where you're recovering funds through. Yeah, it's not exactly the same thing as. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, there is. Yes, there is precedence to recover. Actually, it's I would say it's probably usually to recover the cost of building a piece of infrastructure, and then distributing that cost throughout a parcel tax or a special tax. This one's a little bit of a unique animal. It's just, I don't know that there's any other good example out there, because we are receiving bulk water from the regional district. We're not part of the function, which means that, because actually if we were part of the function, they would just charge us DCCs, and we wouldn't, it would be exactly the same boat as we are now, except it would be called DCCs as opposed to bulk water facility charges. So I know that as I say, capital works, yes, but we did receive a legal opinion on this. We wanted to make sure that we were in the clear, and because the existing parcels receive a benefit from the SCRD water, regardless of where you are in the town, i.e. through the standby of fire flow, then it was felt that it was supportable.
I do like the mayor's suggestion about reviewing this in a year, and I'm wondering if
It's a bylaw coming forward here, Bill, right?
Sorry,
Councillor Sanjanko was wondering if we could add to the motion that it be reviewed in next year, so 12 months. I'm just trying to figure out, we got a bylaw coming. That's the bylaw that we're looking at here.
Yes.
Right?
No, there's no bylaw. We would be bringing back the bylaw.
Okay.
The bylaw that's in front of you is just the town DCCs.
Oh, okay.
It's not the bulk water facilities charges. So if you made a resolution tonight, we would respond with a draft bylaw for your consideration next meeting.
Would it be appropriate though in a bylaw that it has a come back for review, or is that something that can be left outside of the bylaw?
I think it could be left out.
Sorry.
Just need it separate.
Okay, Councillor White, sorry.
Well, I could second that as a this to add it.
So the motion to amend then is that, to this resolution, that it be reviewed in 12 months' time. Okay, so let's just deal with that one. All in favor of that? That's clear. Councillor Larry, did you have a further point, or are we covered? All right, so in this case, then I will call the question on the motion, which is what's there before us as amended with Councillor Sanchezo's amendment. All in favor? Yeah.
I like the amendment.
Opposed? Okay, so that's carried. Councillor White and Councillor opposed. Okay. Okay. Too much heat for you there, David?
Now that you voted all this money out of Bill's pocket.
Who do I pay?
$21.50 at the door.
Okay, all right, thanks for coming. Okay, moving on, any inquiries at this point? Yeah, there's one over there.
Hi, good evening. Andrzej Sobolewski, living in Lower Gibsons. This talk about water brought to mind what happened last year. Aside from the boil water advisory, the other thing that happened last year is we had water short. I have no idea what progress has been made, if any, and I'm asking you, can you tell me if the same circumstances in terms of drought or quasi-drought were to develop this summer? Are we any better prepared or not to?
Certainly, thank you, Vero. Yes, the regional district, and Councillor White may be better able to speak to this in more depth, has revised their drought management plan. Town staff are actually meeting with them tomorrow to go through the restrictions and the edits that they've made to the restrictions and their drought management plan. And then we will be bringing back the water use and conservation policy, I think it's called. We presented that in draft form to you in December, I think, and we were going to report back once we met with the regional district. So you should be seeing that across your desk in the next meeting or two.
No, I think that only addresses a part of your question. So do you want to speak to what the regional district is looking at doing in terms of water, increasing water, or do you want me to say something about it?
I mean, there are a number of proposals on the table. Well, there's there's a channel going. Longer term metering. Metering's already started. Yes, and your heart. But metering will be expanded. Various
So there's kind of three parts to answer here to your question. So the one is that we're looking at changing the restrictions of when they might kick in and what they will be. The second one is the regional district looking at increasing the, I'll say, the access to water And our zone 3, which is up above North Road there, is completely bound by whatever their restrictions are because that's serviced by that. The third part, which I think you might also be asking, is the water, what do we call that? When we call it a drought plan, the one we just did.
The water strategy, water supply strategy.
Yeah, water strategy plan, that we just, we did adopt it, didn't we?
Yes.
I think, okay. We've created potential for a discretion in council between zones 1 and 2 and zone 3 under certain circumstances. How we're going to deal with that, I think, is still an open question, but we have at least created the possibility that the zones could have different stages, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So that's kind of sort of the three components to try to answer your question.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Okay, so we got just two bylaws there for third reading, so just ask a motion to do that. Councillor Larry, Councillor White, all in favor? That's carried. Council reports, Councillor Larry, anything to report on?
No report from me tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lumley, want to tell us about this exciting time? No?
I'm just so happy to be back,
Really?
but nothing to report.
Councillor Sanjanko?
Well, I already mentioned something about the chamber, so I will say that yesterday, I think it was, sat in on a Gibsons public market. Things are definitely moving. They're doing really well, moving full steam ahead with their plans. And they have a fundraiser in town hosted by town evening, but very proud of how far along they've come. And
have a written report for January, but the 2nd of February came up rather quickly for me, so that'll be coming next time, but I will, I should mention, SCRD is holding a community information session, bathtub replacement project, the Gibsons and Area Community Center. There are 4 sessions. It's commitment to public engagement, commitment. So February 4th, 5th, 16th, and 17th are the dates, and there's information on the exact time.
Thank you. The only thing I'll report on is I had sort of the last conference call this week with the House Sound Pulp and Paper, I'll call it transition group, because we've gone about as far as we can. The information that sort of we ended up with at that last meeting is that there are 60 permanent operations jobs gone, and about 6 trades people, if I recall, so about 66 altogether. The Open Door Group, which is Work BC, has about 30 people from that group that are sort of being case managed, so they're looking at possible retraining education opportunities or potentially other employment. So they're, and I think there's a few people that did secure some jobs with independent contractors out there, so they're still kind of doing a job through House Sound Pulp and Paper, but they're no longer employed by House Sound Pulp and Paper. So, you know, this particular group had involved the human resources people at House Sound Pulp and Paper, Unifor, the Ministry of Jobs and Tourism, Industry Canada, Capilano College, a couple of other organizations that slip my mind. But we've been basically collaborating or coordinating for the last few months since then, but this would appear to be pretty much where this is going to settle out at now. There's really not much more that we can do. The group will reconvene if there's anything significant that changes or anything that we can find that we can do, but I think we've done as much as is within our scope. The job fair that we had and coordinated by Open Door Group was well attended, and some employment did come out of that particular job fair. So it doesn't make it any easier for members of our community that have lost their employment, and hope that they will be able to secure other opportunities. We'll continue to do whatever we can to support them. So with that, we've got to deal with one quick item, I think, in a closed meeting, so I'll just ask for a motion to close under 97A. Councilor White, Councilor Larry, all in favor? It's carried.